The distress beacon had been repeating for 11 standard cycles when the first salvage team arrived. They were Cathan, practical, profit-driven, and famously fearless when it came to extracting value from disaster. Their ships had clawed riches from neutron star debris fields. They'd salvaged hulls floating through the accretion disks of black holes. Nothing scared the Cathan. They lasted 4 hours inside the wreck. The transmission logs show screaming. Then silence. The second team was Voss, methodical, patient, equipped with military-grade hazard protocols. They spent 2 days scanning from the exterior. Then they sent in drones. Then they sent in their best boarding specialist, a 16-cycle veteran named Tuvak, who'd survived 3 ship explosions and a direct plasma breach. Tuvak made it 700 meters into the wreck before cutting the comlink. His final words were, "The walls are wrong." No one knows what he meant. The Voss never went back. The third team, the Illyrian Collective, didn't even attempt boarding. Their long-range sensors detected something that made their captain order an emergency burn away from the site, abandoning 3 million credits worth of probe equipment in the process. By the time the Union posted the official hazard classification, 6 more crews had come and gone, each one leaving the same way, fast, quiet, and unwilling to explain why. The wreck became a ghost, a cautionary tale, a thing that salvage crews whispered about in stations across the sector. Stay away from the drowned Titan. Whatever killed it, whatever's still inside isn't worth the money. Kalen Voss, no relation to the Voss Collective, though he'd been asked that question 1,000 times, heard the story for the first time in a bar on Station Theta 9. He was nursing a drink he couldn't afford, sitting beneath a flickering light that made everyone look like they were already dead. The bartender, an old drift with 3 arms and no eyes, had been the one to bring it up. "You're human, yeah?" Kalen nodded. "Got that death thing your species does, the walking into fire thing." "I prefer to call it calculated risk assessment." The drift made a sound that might have been laughter, or might have been its lungs failing. "Calculated, sure. Tell that to the Cathan. Tell that to Tuvak's family. I'm not looking for a death wish. I'm looking for work." "Then find somewhere else." The bartender slid a data slate across the counter, on it a schematic of something massive, something broken. "That's the Titan. Been drifting for 3 years now. Union's got it tagged as biological contamination risk, but no one's actually confirmed anything. The crews that went in, they're not talking, the ones that came back anyway." Kalen picked up the slate. The ship was enormous, carrier class, maybe larger. The schematics showed a design he didn't recognize, not military, not civilian, something else entirely. "Whose ship is it?" "No one knows. That's the thing that really gets people." The bartender leaned closer, his blind face tilted toward Kalen like he could see through sound alone. "It drifted in from outside explored space. No transponder, no registry, no distress signal except that one beacon. And that beacon isn't even from the ship, it's from a life pod that attached to the hull after the fact." Kalen felt his pulse quicken. Someone's still alive in there. Someone was, 3 years ago. Beacon's still active, but that doesn't mean anything. Could be automated. Could be a ghost. The drift paused. Could be something worse. The slate displayed the salvage rights as unclaimed. Union hazard pay was listed at 17 times standard rates. No one had filed a successful claim. "What's the catch?" "You're looking at it." The bartender gestured toward the schematic. 6 crews, 6 failures, no explanations, just silence. Whatever's in there, it doesn't kill you right away. That's what scares people. Something in that wreck takes its time. Kalen stared at the image for a long moment. Then he finished his drink, stood up, and walked toward the docking bay. His ship was called the Last Call, a refueled rust bucket held together by salvage-grade sealant and stubbornness. The engines coughed when he fired them up. The life support smelled faintly of recycled farts and desperation. But she flew. She always flew. The jump to the Titan's last known coordinates took 3 days. Kalen spent most of that time studying everything the Union had on the wreck, which was almost nothing. The official report was 3 pages of carefully worded nothing. Biological anomaly. Psychological distress reported. Recommend extreme caution before boarding. No details about what the anomaly actually was. No specifics about the psychological distress. Just vague warnings and a lot of blank space where information should have been. Someone had scrubbed this file. He was certain of it. The Cathan logs were sealed by their guild. The Voss Collective had classified Tavak's final transmission. The Illyrian Collective had simply refused to comment. 6 crews, and not one of them had told the truth about what they found. That wasn't fear. That was conspiracy. Kalen set the autopilot and tried to sleep. He couldn't. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw that schematic. That massive, broken shape drifting through empty space. Something about it bothered him in a way he couldn't articulate. The ship was too big to be abandoned, too valuable to be left untouched, too mysterious to be forgotten. And yet here it was, a floating fortune, a puzzle worth more than most planetary economies, unclaimed, unapproached, unspoken. He understood then why no one had filed a successful claim. It wasn't because the wreck was too dangerous. It was because the people who'd seen it didn't want anyone else to look. The Titan appeared on his sensors at 5:30 ship time. Kalen had seen wrecks before. He'd pulled cargo from battlefields, from pirate ambushes, from engineering failures that had torn ships apart from the inside. He thought he knew what destruction looked like. He was wrong. The Titan was approximately 4 kilometers long, shaped like a jagged wedge that had once been elegant. Its hull was a deep bronze color, scarred by impacts that had gouged trenches through its armor. Entire sections were missing, not torn away by weapons fire, but removed, cleanly, like someone had taken a scalpel to a whale. The beacon the bartender had mentioned pulsed from a life pod attached near the ship's dorsal section, still active, still repeating the same automated message in 6 different languages, none of which Kalen recognized except the Universal Standard Translation overlay. Assistance required, medical emergency, survivors aboard. 3 years. That message had been repeating for 3 years. Kalen ran a full sensor sweep before getting any closer. The results came back confusing. Radiation levels were elevated but not dangerous. Temperature readings fluctuated wildly from section to section, some areas near absolute zero, others hot enough to melt steel. The ship's power core was still active, cycling at maybe 2% capacity. Enough to keep life support running in some pockets. Enough to keep the lights on in places no one had seen for years. The life pod's internal sensors were degraded, but they showed something that made Kalen's breath catch. A single life sign. Faint, unstable, but present. Someone was still alive in there, after 3 years, after 6 salvage crews had come and gone, after everyone else had walked away. Kalen keyed the comm to open channel. This is civilian salvage vessel last call responding to distress beacon at coordinates 74 Mark 9. I'm reading a life sign aboard the derelict, requesting confirmation from any Union vessel in range. Silence. He repeated the message 3 times. Nothing. No Union patrols. No salvage crews lurking nearby. No one watching. Just him and the Titan. Kalen sat in the cockpit for a long time, staring at that faint life sign. He thought about the Cathan, who'd lasted 4 hours. He thought about Tavak, who'd said the walls were wrong. He thought about 6 crews who'd fled without explanation. Then he thought about the person still breathing in that wreck, alone, waiting, forgotten. He grabbed his helmet, checked his suit seals, and crossed to the airlock. The last call would wait for him. She always did. Whether he'd come back, that was the question. Docking with the life pod was easier than Kalen expected. The attachment point was undamaged, and the pod's magnetic clamps engaged automatically when he got close. The airlock cycled with a groan that suggested it hadn't been used in a long time. The pressure equalized. The inner door opened, and Kalen stepped into a corridor that felt wrong from the first second. The lighting was amber, dim, pulsing slightly like a heartbeat. The walls were smooth, almost organic, with no visible seams or panels. The floor had a slight give to it, like walking on soft rubber. The air was warm and smelled faintly of copper. He activated his helmet's recording system. First entry. Life pod appears intact, no signs of struggle or damage, moving toward the ship's interior. The corridor led to a junction. where the life pod had attached to the Titan's hull. The connection was seamless, too seamless. The pod looked like it had grown out of the ship rather than docking with it. Kalen ran his gloved fingers along the seam. No bolts, no welds, just smooth, continuous material that felt slightly warm to the touch. He pulled up the life sign on his wrist display. The survivor was deeper inside, maybe 800 meters from his current position. The signal pulsed weakly but consistently. Alive. Still alive. He started walking. The first thing he noticed was the silence. Not the silence of an abandoned ship. He'd walked through plenty of those. Empty vessels still hummed with residual power, creaked with temperature changes, whispered with the ghosts of their own systems. The Titan made no sound at all. His boots didn't echo. The air didn't move. Even his own breathing seemed muffled, like something was absorbing the noise before it could travel. The second thing he noticed was the writing. It covered the walls in neat, precise characters that looked almost like calligraphy. Not graffiti, this was too organized, too deliberate. Each symbol was perfectly spaced, perfectly formed, flowing in lines that followed the corridor's curves. Kalen's translator couldn't identify the language. He pointed his helmet camera at a section and ran a full linguistic analysis. The results came back as a string of error codes. Unknown origin. Unknown structure. No matches in any known database. He kept walking. The corridor branched twice. He followed the life sign without hesitation, trusting his display more than his instincts. The walls grew darker as he went deeper. The amber light faded to a deep red, then almost to black. His helmet lamps cut through the darkness, revealing more writing, more symbols, more of that unsettling smoothness. And then he found the first body. It was Cathan. He recognized the quadrupedal build, the forearms, the sensory fins along the spine. The salvage suit was intact, but the helmet was cracked, and the face behind it was contorted in an expression Kalen had never seen before. Not fear, not pain. Wonder. The Cathan looked like they'd died seeing something beautiful. Kalen knelt beside the body, checking for any sign of life. None. The suit's internal display showed that life support had failed approximately 2 years ago, about 1 year after the Titan had been discovered. Found remains of what appears to be a Cathan salvage operative, he said for the recording. Cause of death unclear. No visible trauma. No signs of violence. Suit failure appears to have occurred post-mortem. He stood up and looked down the corridor ahead. More bodies. He could see them now, 4, 5, 6 of them scattered along the passageway like fallen leaves. All Cathan. All with that same expression of wonder. Something had happened to them. Something that had stopped their hearts while their faces were frozen in awe. Kalen felt the first real twinge of fear. Not the rational fear of danger. He'd faced danger before. This was something deeper, something primal. The sense that he was walking into a place that didn't follow the rules he understood. He checked his suit telemetry. Oxygen, 93%. Life support, nominal. No toxins in the air, no radiation spikes, no biological agents detected. Clean, safe, deadly. He kept walking. The next section of the ship was different. The corridor opened into a massive chamber, at least 50 meters across, with a ceiling that disappeared into darkness above. The walls here weren't covered in writing. They were covered in screens. Hundreds of screens. Thousands. Each one showing a different image, a different scene, a different moment frozen in time. Kalen stopped in the center of the chamber, turning slowly, trying to process what he was seeing. One screen showed a star being born, a brilliant flare of light and energy captured in perfect clarity. Another showed a planet being consumed by its dying sun, the surface cracking and boiling away into space. Another showed a battle, ships he didn't recognize exchanging fire that looked more like art than violence. Another showed a child laughing. An alien child from a species Kalen had never seen, but the emotion was unmistakable. Joy, pure and simple. The screens went on and on. Images of beauty and terror, of creation and destruction, of moments that spanned the entire history of life in the galaxy. And at the center of it all, sitting in a chair that looked more like a throne, was the survivor. Kalen's breath caught. The figure was small, human-sized, maybe smaller. They were wrapped in a cloak made of the same smooth material as the walls, their face hidden in shadow. One hand rested on the arm of the chair. The other was pressed against a screen that showed a single image. A door. Opening. Kalen realized with a chill that had nothing to do with temperature that the screen was showing him. Walking through the corridor, approaching this chamber, the image was real-time. The survivor had been watching him since he entered the ship. "Hello?" Kalen's voice sounded small in the vast chamber. "I'm here to help. I received your distress signal." The figure didn't move. "I'm a salvage pilot. I'm not with the Union or any corporation. I saw your life sign. I couldn't leave you here." Still nothing. Kalen took a step closer, then another. His helmet lamps illuminated the chair, the cloak, the still hand pressed against the screen. "You've been here for 3 years. The beacon says you need medical assistance. I have a ship. I can get you out of here." The figure's head tilted slightly, just a few degrees. The first movement Kalen had seen. Then they spoke. The voice was soft, so soft he almost missed it. And it spoke in a language his translator couldn't process. The sounds were like wind through chimes, like water over stones, beautiful and alien and completely incomprehensible. "I'm sorry," Kalen said. "I don't understand." The figure's other hand moved. It rose slowly, trembling with effort, and pointed at one of the screens. The image shifted. A new scene appeared, a room filled with alien bodies. Cathan, Voss, others Kalen didn't recognize. Dozens of them, all lying still, all with that same expression of wonder. The figure pointed to another screen. This one showed something Kalen couldn't immediately identify. A dark shape moving through a corridor, too fast to track, too large to be natural. Another screen. The life pod, attaching to the hull. Someone, the figure, watching from inside. Another screen. A ship burning. Not the Titan. Something smaller. Something that had tried to run. The screens were telling a story. A warning. The figure finally spoke again, and this time the translator caught fragments. "Not safe. Should not have come. Cannot leave." The last phrase repeated 3 times, growing stronger each time. "Cannot leave. Cannot leave. Cannot leave." Kalen stepped back. "What do you mean, cannot leave? I have a ship. I can take you." The figure stood up. The cloak fell away, and Kalen saw them for the first time. They were beautiful in the way that deep space was beautiful, cold and vast and utterly indifferent. Their skin was the color of twilight, shifting through shades of purple and blue as Kalen watched. Their eyes were black, depthless, reflecting the screens around them like polished obsidian. They had no mouth that Kalen could see, but the voice continued anyway, resonating from somewhere inside their chest. "You do not understand what this place is." The translator was working better now, filling in the gaps, adapting to the alien syntax. "This is not a ship. This is a prison." Kalen felt his stomach drop. A prison for who? The figure turned, gesturing at the screens, at the bodies, at the writing on the walls. For them. For the ones who came before. For the ones who tried to leave. They stepped closer, and Kalen saw that their feet didn't quite touch the floor. They floated, just barely, as if gravity was more of a suggestion than a rule. The Cathan came. They saw, they tried to flee. The prison would not let them. It showed them wonders until their hearts stopped. It gave them what they wanted most, and then it kept giving and giving until there was nothing left of them but wonder. Kalen's hand moved to his sidearm, not because he thought it would help. He was starting to suspect nothing would help, but because instinct demanded he have something to hold on to. What about the Voss? Tuvok? He said the walls were wrong. The walls are wrong. They are not walls. They are memory. Every surface in this place holds the echoes of those who have died here. The prison does not forget. It learns. It grows. It adapts. The figure's black eyes fixed on Kalen's face. "You are human. The prison has never seen your kind before. That is why you made it this far. The others were recognized, known. The prison knew what to show them. But you are new. It does not know what you want yet. Kalen thought about the last call, waiting for him at the airlock, about the drink he'd left half-finished on Station Theta 9, about the face of the bartender, blind and ancient, warning him away. It knows what I want, he said quietly. I want to leave. I want to take you with me. I want to get the hell out of here before whatever happened to them happens to us. The figure made a sound that might have been laughter or might have been sorrow. You cannot leave. No one leaves. The prison does not allow it. Then how did the other crews escape? The figure was silent for a long moment. They did not escape, they were released. Kalen's blood went cold. Released. The prison feeds on wonder, on awe, on the moment when a mind breaks open and sees something it cannot comprehend. When the crews came, the prison fed. And when they had nothing left to give, when their wonder turned to terror, the prison let them go. So they could tell others. So more would come. So the feeding could continue. The figure's voice dropped to a whisper. You are not the first to reach this chamber. You are not the first to speak with me. The others stood where you are standing. They asked the same questions. And then the prison showed them what they wanted most, and they could not look away. Kalen looked around at the screens, at the images of stars and battles and laughing children, at the door showing him walking toward his own fate. What did it show them? What they loved, what they lost, what they would die to see again. The figure raised a hand and pointed at a screen near the ceiling. Kalen looked up and saw his mother. She was younger than he remembered, maybe 30, maybe 40, standing in the kitchen of the house where he'd grown up. She was laughing at something off-screen, her hands covered in flour, her hair a mess. Alive, healthy, happy. Kalen hadn't seen his mother in 12 years. She'd died in a transport accident when he was 22. He'd held her hand in a hospital while machines did the work her body couldn't anymore. He'd never stopped missing her. The screen shifted. His mother turned, looked directly at him and smiled. Kalen. His name. She said his name. I've missed you so much. Kalen felt tears burning behind his eyes. His hand dropped from his sidearm. His legs felt weak. Don't, the figure said. It's not real. None of it is real. But it looked real. It sounded real. His mother was right there, reaching toward him, her hand pressing against the screen like she could push through if she tried hard enough. Come home, she said. I've been waiting for you. Kalen took a step toward the screen. The figure grabbed his arm. Their grip was cold, colder than vacuum, colder than anything he'd ever felt. Look away. I can't. Look away. Kalen tore his gaze from the screen. The image faded, the sound of his mother's voice dissolving into static. The screen went dark. Then it lit up again with a different image. The last call, breaking apart, exploding from the inside out, debris scattering into the void. That is what will happen if you try to leave, the figure said. The prison will destroy your ship. It will destroy any ship that comes within range. It will trap you here, in this chamber, and it will show you wonders until your heart gives out. Kalen pulled his arm free. His mind was racing, trying to find an angle, a solution, a way out that didn't end with him joining the bodies in the corridor. Why are you still alive? You've been here for 3 years. Why hasn't it killed you? The figure's black eyes dimmed. Because I am the warden. The word hung in the air like a physical weight. Kalen stared at the figure, at the shifting twilight skin, the depthless eyes, the floating feet. You're what? The prison requires a keeper, someone to maintain the systems, someone to ensure the feeding continues, someone to greet the newcomers and explain the rules. The figure's voice had changed. It was flatter now, more mechanical, like they were reciting a script. I was chosen for this role. I have served for 3 years. I will serve until the prison finds another. Kalen shook his head. That's insane. You're not a warden. You're a prisoner, just like everyone else. The distinction is meaningless. No, it's not. Kalen pointed at the screens, at the bodies, at the writing on the walls. This place is a trap. You know it's a trap. You tried to warn me. You tried to warn all of them. That's why the beacon is still active. You're not calling for help. You're calling for someone to end this." The figure's eyes flickered. For just a moment, Kalen saw something behind them. Something human. Something desperate. "I cannot leave. The prison will not let me. I have tried. I have tried everything." "Then we try something new." Kalen pulled up his wrist display and started running calculations. The Titan's power core was still active. The life support was still functioning. The structural integrity was degraded, but not critical. "What are you doing?" the figure asked. "I'm going to blow this ship apart." Silence. "You cannot. The prison will try to stop me, I know, but it can't stop everything. It can't be everywhere at once, and it sure as hell can't survive a core breach from the inside." Kalen's fingers flew across the display, pulling up schematics, identifying weak points, calculating explosive yields. He didn't have enough conventional explosives to do the job, but he didn't need conventional explosives. The Titan's own power core would do the work for him, if he could overload it properly. "The others tried violence," the figure said. "The prison adapted. It always adapts. Then I'll adapt faster." Kalen looked up at the screens. At the thousands of images, the millions of moments, the endless loop of wonders designed to trap and consume. Your prison feeds on awe, right? On wonder? On the moment when a mind breaks open and sees something it can't comprehend. The figure nodded. "Then let's give it something it can't comprehend." The plan was simple. Stupid. Probably suicidal. But it was the only plan Kalen had. He needed to reach the Titan's power core. That meant descending another 2 kilometers into the ship, through sections that the prison would be actively trying to protect. The figure, who gave no name, only the title of Warden, agreed to guide him, but warned that the prison would show him things, would try to stop him, would try to break him. "Don't look at the screens," the Warden said as they left the chamber. "Don't listen to the voices. Don't stop moving for any reason." "Got it." They moved through corridors that grew darker and stranger the deeper they went. The walls here weren't just covered in screens, they were the screens. Every surface was alive with images, shifting and changing as Kalen walked past. He saw his father, who died when Kalen was 7, saw his first love, the one who'd broken his heart, saw friends he'd lost, places he'd left, moments he'd tried to forget. He kept walking. The prison showed him the last call exploding a dozen different ways, showed him the bodies in the corridor, their faces frozen in wonder, then showed him his own face, wearing that same expression. He kept walking. The Warden floated beside him, their twilight skin pulsing with light, their black eyes fixed forward. They didn't look at the screens. They didn't speak. They just led the way, faster and faster, until Kalen was nearly running. How much further? 700 meters. The prison is trying to slow us down. It's creating obstacles. Kalen saw them, walls that hadn't been there a moment ago, floors that suddenly dropped away, corridors that twisted back on themselves. The prison was reshaping itself, trying to trap them, trying to force them into chambers where the wonder could take hold. "Go left," the Warden said. Kalen went left. "Jump!" He jumped. "Crawl!" He crawled. They moved through the ship like water through cracks, finding paths that shouldn't have existed, slipping through gaps that closed behind them. The Warden knew this place, knew its patterns, its weaknesses, its blind spots. 3 years of being the prison's keeper had taught them things. "The core is ahead," the Warden said, "but the prison knows what you're planning. It will show you something, something you won't be able to ignore." "What?" "I don't know. That's what makes it dangerous." They emerged into a chamber that was different from the others, smaller, darker. And at its center, sitting on a metal chair bolted to the floor, was a human figure. Kalen stopped. The figure looked up. It was him. Older, wearier, but unmistakably him. Scars on his face that Kalen didn't have. Gray in his hair that wasn't there yet. "Don't," the Warden said. Kalen couldn't look away. "You're going to die here," the other version of himself said. You know that, right? You're going to overload the core and the explosion will kill you, and the warden will die with you, and nothing will change. The prison will survive. It always survives. That's not true. It is true. You've seen the screens. You've seen what this place can do. You're not special. You're not the hero who saves the day. You're just another salvage jockey who walked into a trap and can't find the way out. Kalen felt his resolve wavering. The other version of himself was so convincing, so calm, so certain. There's no shame in staying, the other him said. The prison will take care of you. It will show you everything you ever wanted to see. Your mother, your father, everyone you've lost. They'll all be here forever. Kalen's hand dropped to his side. The warden grabbed his arm. Don't listen, it's lying. It's not lying. The other version stood up, walked closer. It's showing you the truth. You've been running your whole life, Kalen. Running from loss, running from pain, running from the fact that you're alone. You don't have to run anymore. You can stay here. You can rest. Kalen looked at the warden, at the desperation in their black eyes. Then he looked at the other version of himself, at the scars, the gray hair, the sad smile. No, he said quietly. No. I'm not running. Kalen straightened his shoulders. I'm not running from anything. I came here because someone needed help, because I couldn't walk away, because that's not who I am. The other version's smile faltered. I'm not going to stay here and watch ghosts. I'm not going to let this place win, and I'm not going to die alone in the dark, wondering what might have happened if I'd just kept walking. Kalen stepped past his doppelganger, threw the image like it wasn't there, and approached the core. The power core was beautiful. It pulsed with soft blue light, suspended in the center of a spherical chamber that hummed with contained energy. Cables ran from the core to every part of the ship, feeding the prison, keeping it alive. The warden floated beside Kalen, their face unreadable. This will kill you. Probably. The explosion will destroy everything within 5 kilometers. Your ship, this chamber, the prison. I know. And you're still going to do it. Kalen pulled out his sidearm. It wasn't designed for this, no weapon was. But he didn't need to destroy the core, he just needed to destabilize it. He aimed at the primary conduit and fired. The shot punched through the casing, and blue light erupted from the wound. Alarms started screaming, alien sounds that Kalen didn't recognize but understood perfectly. The prison was dying. He fired again and again. Each shot found a new conduit, a new weakness, a new way to make the core bleed. The ship shuddered. The walls flickered between solid and transparent, showing glimpses of space outside, of the last call still waiting, of stars that were about to witness something impossible. It's not enough, the warden said. The prison is containing the damage. You need to hit the main junction. Where is it? The warden pointed to a cluster of cables near the core's center, thicker than the others, pulsing with more light. Kalen had 3 shots left. He took a breath, aimed, fired. The first shot missed, ricocheting off the core's surface. The second shot hit the junction dead on. The cables exploded, sending arcs of energy across the chamber. The ship screamed, literally screamed, a sound that came from everywhere and nowhere, a sound of agony and rage. The third shot, Kalen fired into the core itself. The light went out. For a single heartbeat, everything was dark and silent. Then the core began to collapse. The warden grabbed Kalen and pulled him toward the exit. They moved faster than Kalen thought possible, floating through corridors that were crumbling around them, past screens that had gone dark, past bodies that were dissolving into dust. The prison is dying, the warden said, but it's taking the ship with it. We have maybe 2 minutes before the core detonates. Kalen ran. His lungs burned, his legs screamed, but he ran. The corridors twisted and shifted, trying to slow them. But the prison was weak now. Its power was failing. Its walls were cracking. Its wonders had turned to nightmares. They reached the life pod. The last call was still attached, still waiting. Go, the warden said. Get to your ship. Get clear of the blast. What about you? The warden's black eyes met his. For the first time, Kalen saw something human in them, something that had been buried for 3 years. I can't leave. The prison is part of me now. If I go, it goes with me. Then we both go. Kalen grabbed the warden's arm. We're leaving together or not at all. "You don't understand. I understand enough." He pulled the warden into the life pod, sealed the door, and punched the release. The pod detached from the Titan just as the first shockwave hit. They tumbled through space, spinning end over end, as the Titan tore itself apart behind them. The explosion was silent, no sound in vacuum, but Kalen felt it in his bones, felt the death of something ancient and terrible. The last call was still there, still intact, still waiting. Kalen guided the pod toward the airlock, matched trajectories, and docked on his third attempt. They stumbled into the ship just as the Titan's core finally detonated. The shockwave hit them a moment later, a wave of radiation and debris that sent the last call spinning into the void. Kalen grabbed the controls, fought the tumble, and managed to stabilize them after what felt like an eternity. When he looked back at the sensor display, the Titan was gone. Nothing remained. No wreck, no prison, no wonders, just empty space and a single life pod drifting away from the blast. The warden sat in the co-pilot's seat, their twilight skin pale against the ship's worn upholstery. They were shaking, or maybe Kalen was shaking. It was hard to tell anymore. "You saved me," the warden said. "Why?" Kalen thought about it, about the bartender who'd warned him away, about the 6 crews who'd fled, about Tuvok, who'd said the walls were wrong, and the Catharn, who'd died with wonder on their faces. "Because someone had to," he said finally. "Because you didn't deserve to be trapped in there, because no one else was willing to try." The warden was silent for a long moment. "The prison is gone. But the things it showed me, the things I saw, they're still inside my head. I don't know if I can forget them." "Then don't forget." Kalen set a course for the nearest station. "Remember them. Remember the people who died in there. Remember what the prison was, and then remember that you got out." The warden's eyes flickered. The blackness seemed to recede, just slightly, revealing something lighter beneath. "What do I do now?" Kalen shrugged. "Whatever you want. That's the point, isn't it? You're free. You can go anywhere. Be anyone. The galaxy's a big place. I don't even know my own name anymore. The prison took everything. Then pick a new one." The warden looked out the viewport at the stars, at the infinite possibilities spread out before them. "I was called Keeper. For 3 years, that's all I was. All I could be. Then you need a new name." The warden turned back to Kalen. For the first time, they almost smiled. "What would you name me?" Kalen thought about it, about the ship around them, held together by stubbornness and hope, about the journey ahead, into unknown space, about the word that had brought him here in the first place. "Survivor," he said. "I'd name you Survivor." The warden, Survivor, nodded slowly. "I like that." The last call jumped to FTL, leaving the ruins of the Titan behind. Behind them, the debris field drifted silently, scattered fragments of a prison that had fed on wonder for longer than anyone could remember. And somewhere in that debris, drifting among the wreckage, was a single screen, still intact, still pulsing with faint light, still showing the image of a door opening, but that's a story for another time. For now, the last call carried 2 passengers into the unknown, a human who refused to walk away, and an alien who had finally found someone willing to stay. The galaxy didn't understand humans, their recklessness, their stubbornness, their refusal to accept that some doors should stay closed. But maybe that was the point. Maybe the thing that made humanity special wasn't strength or intelligence or courage. Maybe it was simply this. When everyone else turned away, a human pilot looked at the darkness and said, "Someone might still be alive in there." And then they went in.